Hello everyone and welcome back to this video. Now in this video we'll be continuing with the sweep series. In the previous two videos we have already learned about sections inside sweep and about different types of alignment option inside sweep. Okay, so we have seen what parameter does, what arc length does, and what bipoint does. Now in this particular section or session of sweep we'll be learning more about the guide curves. Okay, now in the previous sessions we have only used a single guide. In this session I'll be using one single guide, then multiple guides like two guides, and then three guides as well, so that I can give you a clear idea of how sweep command is going to work. So let us start by understanding the guide itself. Okay, now first of all what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sketch, and which will be my section. To create my section I can create a sketch on the right or on the front plane. So I'm selecting the right plane or the front plane, anyone will be fine. Then I'm creating a center rectangle anywhere on the screen. So it is not specifically on the origin, it can be anywhere on the screen. Now I'm using the fillet command to fillet all four corners. In this video you will also understand some basic fundamental of sketching. Okay, so here I've created a fillet at all four corners, and because I was about to create a fillet, so there was no point of creating a rectangle in the exact position, otherwise the constraint will be lost. Now I'm going to use an equal constraint to make all the arc equal to each other. So I'm selecting all the arc one by one, and after selecting the last arc I'm going to wait for a second, and here I'll have some menus or some options from which I'm going to select equal radius. Okay, so here I'm going to select equal radius. Now all the four arcs are now equal to each other. Now here I'm defining the radius of each arc as 40. You can define the radius you want to. Okay, sizes are geometrical sizes are just the sizes, so we are more concerned about the shape of the object rather than the size of the object. Okay, so here let's say the length of this particular line is supposed 300 and the height of this particular line is supposed 180. Okay, and then I want the center of this top line and the origin to be vertically aligned, same like the way I gave equal. So I'm going to select the center of the right line, then I'm going to go over the origin or near the origin. I'm going to click on the origin, wait for a few seconds, and then horizontally align. Okay, so here I have created a typical geometry perfectly. So the output contains a rectangle of 300 by 180, which is designed keeping the origin in the center. Okay, and the radius of each corner is 40. Once you're done with the sketch, you can click on finish. Then now I can create a new sketch on the top plane. So irrespective of which plane you selected, doesn't really matter, as I told you. You can now create a sketch on the top plane and you will find this points. Okay, endpoints. So here I'm going to create an arc. So let's say I'm creating an arc like this. Okay, so let's say this particular arc is having this gap of 60 and this gap of 300, suppose, and the radius of 1000. Okay, or the radius of 800. Okay, now I'm going to mirror this arc onto the other side, and then I'm going to click on finish. Now what I want to do is I want to sweep this simple rectangle with respect to these two arcs. Okay, now before we do that, I know it is very simple to do that, but before we do that I want to create some more sketches. This will be helpful in future, and I want to create those sketches in the front plane. Okay, so here I'm going to create few sketches. For example, I'm going to create a line like this. Okay, you can see an angular line. Okay, and technically I'm going to make a triangle, a complete triangle with the help of lines. Okay, and then I'm going to create an arc tangent to any one side, like the bottom side here. So I created this simple shape, and I want to define that the total height of the shape. Okay, so it is behind the section. One thing we have to notice that it is behind the section. Okay, the bottom from the origin is at the distance of suppose 150. Okay, and the top from the origin is suppose at the distance of 200. So it is 150 by 200, and there is this angular line. The bottom point is at 150, the top point is at 200, and there is an arc as well. The bottom point is again at 150 and the top point is again at 200. So here I'm going to convert this to in construction. I'm going to have a copy of this exactly in the front as well. So to create a copy, you can select the entire geometry, press Ctrl and drag the geometry. Okay, so location doesn't really matter. You can define the new location again. So for example, here again I want to define the height as suppose 150 and the back height as 200. So here I'm just simply creating this geometry. It is not necessary for you to make it. For you to understand, I'm just creating two of these geometry, one in the front area, one in the back area. Okay, now I'll click on finish, and for now I'll hide this sketch, the last sketch which I just created. Okay, now let us first try to create a sweep with these two curves. Okay, so I'll go for a sweep or swept. Then here in section, I'm going to select a connected curve or a tangent curve. Okay, now because we only have one section, so it is not really necessary to be specific with where you are clicking. Okay, then in guide, I'm going to select a single curve, and if I select only one guide, you can see this is how it is following. Okay, I can make sure preserve shape is on so that the shape is completely maintained. Okay, and this is how it is following if I select only one guide. And these are the options which I have, and I have multiple options. Now here, if I click on add in front of guide or below guide, and then I add the second guide, so now this is how it is following. Okay, so now I have a section which has been followed by two guides. Now here we will find one option called scaling, and this particular option is typical to two guides. Scaling option is also there for a single guide, but here in scaling option we have three specific options called uniform, lateral, and another curve. Okay, now if I remove the second guide, so if I delete the guide, I still have the scaling option, but I don't have uniform and lateral option inside scaling. So that options will only come if you have two guides selected. Okay, so uniform means as the length of the object is increasing, the width of the object is also increasing, or the length is increasing, the height is also increasing. So that is known as uniform. If I choose lateral, that means only the length will increase, or the guide affected area will increase or decrease, but the height will remain the same. The one which is not affected by the guide will remain the same. Now we have one more option here called another curve, and to understand this option we have to show this sketch. Now here in another curve, I'm going to select a single curve, let's say this line. Now as we can notice here, this line, top part was at the distance of 200 and the bottom part was at the distance of 150. So it is going exactly with the same length of the guide, but here the top point is at 200 and here the top point is at the bottom point is at 150. Okay, because if you remember how we created this sketch, this is how it's going to work like. Okay, and this is a line. Again, if I select this line, this time because the line is in the front, okay, so the front portion is going to be 200 and the back portion is going to be 150. So by using this curve, by using this line, I can also control the behavior of the height. Okay, the scaling of the height. Now here again, if I select this arc, so you can see if I select the line, it is straight. Okay, but if I select the arc, it is curved. So the distances are same, the high and low point is the same, only thing is now it is curved. Similarly, if you select this arc, it will be curved in the forward direction. So that is the reason I created one copy in the back and one copy in the front, so that you can clearly understand. So I hope you got the point about uniform, lateral, and this particular option. Now I'll cancel this out. I'll delete the last sketch. Now let's say I want to use one more guide on the top. So I don't want specific curve controlling it. So I want a guide here, a proper guide here. So in this guide, I want to create an arc which is of again the same length, but this is going to look somewhat like this. So I'm going to make this 2 points vertical and this 2 points horizontal, and then I want to give this a radius of, let's say, 400. Then I'm going to click on finish. Now here we have the third guide. Okay, so that is the maximum we can go. So here I can go for swept. Here I can go for connected curves in the section. In guide, I can go for single curve, number 1, then add number 2, then add number 3. So as we can now notice, the third guide is also affecting the reverse area, the bottom area. Okay, so this is how we can use multiple guides inside NX, and we can go up to 3 guides. And for 3 guides, we don't have any options. Okay, because something like orientation and scaling is already been controlled by the third guide. Okay, so I hope you understood how exactly guide option works inside NX. Okay, in the next lecture, we are going to go in detail about orientation and scaling, and that will give you a brief idea about how orientation and scaling works. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.